Hi everyone, welcome to 5 Quote Shakespeare Hamlet Theme Analysis. In this series, we looked at a total of 14 different themes, and in this one, we're going to finish up the Revenge mini-series. In the Revenge mini-series, there were a total of 4 videos. In the first one, we looked at the 4 revenge subplots and tried to explain their significance. In the second one, we looked at Hamlet's revenge dilemma and tried to explain why he couldn't commit revenge due to conflicting cultural influences. In the third video, we looked at the revenge genre itself and we explored some of its plot features and compared it to the film John Wick. And in this video, we'll do the thematic features to finish up the miniseries. Yeah, the John Wick part was a lot of fun, that was for sure. What I do in each video is first identify the important aspects of the theme and apply it to the play, and then we dig deeply into the text of each play and pull out several quotes to prove the connection. If you find these videos useful, please like and subscribe, and if you make a donation, you get a complete set of the PDFs I use in this series. See the description for details. He who fights with monsters might take care lest he thereby become a monster himself. And if you gaze for long into the abyss gazes also into you. So Friedrich Nietzsche, you might have heard that before, and it's absolutely true. We can become monsters by trying to fight monsters. That's what war does to us, for one thing, as nations and as individuals. So revenge very often gets out of hand. The simple eye for an eye justice is not simple at all. It's not possible. That kind of justice cannot be contained. You kill my brother, I kill your brother, then you get angry and kill my cousin, and you kill my sister, and I kill your sister and your cousin. It just goes on and on and on. Romeo and Juliet is all about that. The Montagues and the Capulets just for hundreds of years, killing each other's brothers and cousins. It just goes on and on and on. Eye for an eye. Yeah, does it work? It's not good justice. So instead of healing the wasteland by righting a wrong, that kind of revenge hero ends up compounding the atrocity. The hero becomes a monster, no better than the villain he set out to defeat, of course. Now, the Furies were the Greek personification. The Furies were these lovely ladies. They were personifications of that vengeful, wrathful rage, unthinking, pure emotional rage, and that governed our lives as humans for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. The Greeks, in their mythology, one of the plays, they lay out a plan whereby we can change the Furies' justice with the justice of the Eumenides, and the Eumenides are a more civilized way, a more rational way of enacting justice, so we don't have to live by the principles of blood vengeance. Do you see? So the way that the Furies wreak havoc in the world is by making the hero himself what he doesn't want to be, what he actually wants to destroy. He becomes that thing. The hero becomes the monster, no better than the villain he set out to defeat. And of course, the innocent or nearly innocent victims get caught up in the endless cycle of violence. So Romeo and Juliet is like this. They're causing havoc on the streets of Verona, and Tybalt and Mercutio, not necessarily innocent, but not deserving of death, do you see? And even in John Wick, it's complicated. Lots of innocent henchmen get killed in John Wick. Certainly, Rick and Morty had a great joke about killing all these mindless, drones, these minions. Doesn't mean anything in the action movies because we want to see that kind of action. But then they kind of make a joke about showing how these guys, they do have backstories. If you want to take the life of one of these minions and give a backstory, they probably have at least a brother or sister, husbands, wives, mothers, dads, and stuff. But anyway, they're not necessarily, the henchmen in John Wick are pretty nasty creatures themselves, probably, because they're killers. But they're not. I don't know. Do they deserve wholesale death? That's the question. So in the John Wick context, John escaped monsterhood, he was trying to, the life as a hitman. But when the sacred good love is violated, he succumbs to the Furies. That scene with the mall where he's smashing open his history, the buried history. He's revisiting his own history in the basement of his home. That's the Furies. It's furious. He's succumbed to pure anger and violence. It's the primal need for punitive justice, and that's why we paid the ticket to go watch John Wick, DC. Many die in the resultant chaos, of course, including the sacred part of John himself. All the henchmen die, but in his murder as well, he's actually murdered that part of himself that he was trying to cultivate and grow with the love of his wife and the symbol of the dog, DC, to get his life back on a normal track. So we've already talked about Guildenstern and Rosencrantz and how they are murdered. They are murdered by Hamlet. Does that make Hamlet a monster? I think kind of. I think it does, except in that small redemptive moment where Hamlet says, just before he's dying, I wonder what happened to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and then he dies. Do you see? That's the only sliver of redemption that Hamlet gets here. But otherwise, he murdered two guys that did not deserve to die. They're suckers. They behave badly. They're foolish, they're ignorant, they're naive, but they certainly did not deserve murder, do you see? So Hamlet in that regard did become that monster. Here is where Horatio says, when Hamlet is telling the story, this particular story, Horatio replies, why, what a king is this? Now, it's very, very ambiguous. We don't know if he's talking about, the assumption is that he's talking about Claudius. Wow, what a piece of work is Claudius. But the way he says it and where he says it in the dialogue, he could equally be talking about Hamlet. Wow, what a king are you, potentially, Hamlet, that you would do this. Are you that kind of guy? And there's one more quote that he says as well that is equally ambiguous. So I think that Shakespeare uses this ambiguously on purpose to make us not be very, very happy with our boy Hamlet. Also, at the end, in the very last scene, Fortinbras arrives and he sees the pile of bodies, and he says, this quarry cries of havoc. O proud death, he talks to death, what feast is toward in thine eternal cell, that thou so many princes at one single shot, so bloodily hast struck down. So he's talking to death and saying, wow, what kind of guy are you? What feast did you supply for us as a hunter? And the word quarry it actually means a pile of dead animals after a hunt. So there's a personification here of death as a hunter. Literally, you go out on a hunt and you'd come back with a big pile of dead bodies, and that's what he sees here in Denmark. Now, if death is a hunter, it suggests that the Avenger is actually death, because what is the Avenger? The Avenger is a hunter. The Avenger is hunting his prey. He's a hunter. So the Avenger himself is a figure of death. He is a monster of death, do you see? So that's another piece of evidence to show that this revenge stuff is not necessarily the best way to go. Justice, but at what price, of course. All right, revenge as theater performance. And that was 5-quote Shakespeare Hamlet theme analysis, the end of the Revenge mini-series. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, come back for my next video, Thought versus Action. If you found these videos useful, please like and subscribe, and if you make a donation, you get a complete set of the PDFs I use in this series. See the description for details. Thanks for watching.